Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa azwajihi wa zurriyati ajmain. We had a few sessions before on this, but since it has been a while, it's worth it to just go through the material we've already covered, so maybe we'll be able to, glean something which we missed, or at least we'll be able to just go through what we have already done, just to keep the continuity going. Okay, so here you go. Distinction between philosophy and theology. So that St. Thomas Aquinas made a formal and explicit distinction between dogmatic theology and philosophy. So dogmatic theology is Christian theology here. It's called dogmatic to differentiate from theology, which is a philosophical theology, as defined by Aristotle, for example. So the St. Thomas Aquinas made a formal and explicit distinction between dogmatic theology and philosophy is an undoubted and indubitable fact. And this sort of distinction you will find in al-Mutakallimin as well. For example, you'll see in Sharif Jujani's At-Tarifat or Tanwi's Kashaf Istilahat al-Funun and other books, obviously. Philosophy and the other human sciences, they are called human sciences because they deal with human reality as against, natural sciences that deal with non-human reality. Rely simply and solely on the natural light of reason. So that's what philosophy is, natural light of reason, solely. Simply and solely. Okay, let's think a bit about this. So philosophy relies on natural light of reason. Obviously, that doesn't differentiate it from dogmatic theology on its own, but the fact is that apparently philosophy solely rely on natural light of reason. And in the context of Christianity, for example, or Islam, what it means is that philosophy doesn't take revelation as the final word, or doesn't even, if you are living in a non-religious society, philosophy wouldn't even take it into consideration. And if it does, it would take it as a reason, or as a reason on its own. So that's what they mean by natural light of reason. Obviously, this is a claim of philosophy, a big claim. And obviously, in modern day, especially the philosophical, in 20th century, for example, several philosophers have questioned this claim, and several philosophical movements have discussed the fact that so-called natural light of reason, relies on a lot of implicit and presupposition and background assumptions, which are not necessarily based on reason, etc. Okay, so philosophy and the other human sciences relies simply and solely on the natural light of reason. The philosophers use principles which are known by human reason, with God's natural concurrence, of course, but without the supernatural light of faith. So natural reason is the human reason, abstracted from revelation, I guess. Talk a bit more about natural reason, this natural light of reason. So I just copied this from this internet encyclopedia of philosophy. So it says, I think in the context of discussion of Aquinas anyway. So the natural light of reason is the capacity for intelligent thought that all human beings have just by virtue of being human. So just by virtue of being human, what does that mean? So this is abstracted from, I guess, your ethnic background, your religion, your nationality, your education, etc. I guess so. So religion is abstract from religion as well. But whatever this natural light of reason is, we always use it in the context of one or another sort of socialization. So, in a sense, it's an abstract concept. So, I guess what philosopher tries to do, or pretend to do, or intend to do, is try to abstract from his or her social context, abstract from it, tries to bracket it, and think as if he or she hasn't been socialized in a certain way, and then use whatever is left to think about things around him and about herself and about that light. But that's all, as you can see, it's totally an abstract concept. It's totally, it's an ideal, and some would say misguided idea. um, because yeah, so that's the philosophers. But interesting question is the interesting question is from the question of someone like Saint Thomas Aquinas, someone like say Sharif Jurjani, who make the distinction between, obviously we shouldn't bring in say Sharif Jurjani, because obviously he doesn't make this distinction in the same way as Aquinas. So let's focus on Aquinas. When they make a distinction between philosophy and dogmatic theology based on the idea of natural reason, they already accept and I would say uncritically almost, philosophy's claim that we have access to something called natural reason, abstracted from our socialization, our education. Obviously, we have power of abstraction, but whether that power of abstraction and bracketing gives us access to, or give us power to transcend our upbringing, is an open question. And philosophy's progress or regress, whatever you want to call it, in the last 100 years or so, have actually suggested that this is an impossible ideal, and it's just an empty claim, really. So if this is an empty claim, then the whole distinction between philosophy and dogmatic theology based on this claim also collapses, I guess. That's what I want to say. Okay, so it will be philosophy and the other human sciences rely simply and solely on the natural light of reason. The philosopher uses principles which are known by the human reason, with God's natural concurrence, of course, but without the supernatural light of faith. And I think when these Catholic writers use the word faith in this context, what their meaning really is revelation, whatever their concept of revelation is. And he argues to the conclusion that which are the fruit of human reasoning, abstracted from at least revelation. The theologian, on the other hand, although he certainly uses his reason, what else is he supposed to use? But his reason is obviously not a natural reason. So this is interesting. That's not a natural reason, because supernatural is mixed with it. But I would claim, at least provisionally, that all reasons are mixed with supernatural light of faith. The only thing is, supernatural light of faith of a Christian is a different supernatural light of faith, and supernatural light of a believer is a different supernatural light of faith, and supernatural light of faith of a non-believer is a different type of supernatural light of faith. in our Islamic term, we would say that both rely on some sort of revelation, but one revelation is from Rahman, the other is from Shaitan. Yeah, so that's my provisional ambition anyway. The theologian, on the other hand, although he or she certainly uses his or her reason, except this principle on authority, his principles on authority. That's another distinctions on faith. He received them as revealed. So one distinction can be that from this we learn. Let's think about it a bit. Maybe what they are saying is the philosopher explicitly or implicitly explicitly rejects all authorities. Whether they are successful in it or not, that's something like all authority. Except the authority of reason. At least a dogmatic theologian explicitly accepts the authority of revelation and drives his or her basic principle or some of his basic principles from revelation, and then use reason in conjunction with those premises. So that can be one form of distinction. But again, one could say, and probably I would try to say, is that although this is explicitly said, a philosopher implicitly also relies on authority, but different types of authorities. I think that's what I would say. I would say, like, instinctively. Okay. So we have some way of distinguishing between theology, dogmatic theology, and philosophy here, in the sense that at least explicitly they have different starting points, even if implicitly they aren't that different. Okay. From revealed premises leads to the development, but it does not turn to, since the principal data are accepted as revealed. Okay, so the introduction of dialectic into theology, dialectic by rational reasoning, etc. The practice of the introduction of dialectic, for example, logic, into theology, the practice of starting from a revealed premise or from revealed premises, then arguing rationally to a conclusion, leads to the development of scholastic theology. But does not turn theology into philosophy. Since the principles, the data are accepted as revealed explicitly, I guess. And we would say a philosopher also accepts certain principle or data which are revealed in some other ways, but he or she seems to do, if it does, implicitly and not explicitly. But if we go by this, then scholastic theology seems to be different from ilm al-kalam a bit, in the sense that, at least as defined by Hujjat al-Islam Imam Ghazali, ilm al-kalam is prior to accepting revelation, because the whole point of it is to establish the authority of revelation in the first place. But we'll look into that and probably compare it with Aquinas' conception of scholastic theology at some point. But for now, probably we should just stop here. Okay.